Amanie, you are truly a journalist. Papa, we got something. No, this is a question.
Welcome to Wandering Through Wisdom with me, Amani, where every conversation is a journey into learning and unlearning, rethinking and reimagining. My guest for this episode is Zoë Mercedes, a Caribbean woman taking bold leaps and living in her own truth by integrating passion and purpose. Today, we talk about gratitude, refusing to play small, everyday acts of resistance, and the relationship between expansiveness and embracing her queer identity. I want you to introduce yourself in all of your fullness. Who is Zoe?
Zoe Mercedes Teague. There's a J actually in front of all of that, so it's J Zoe Mercedes Teague. I'm a lover of life. Maya Angelou says life loves a liver of it, and I think that's me. I am a lawyer by education and training. I'm retired though from the profession. Always a lawyer, just retired. Might come out of retirement one day. I work currently in philanthropy. I'm an activist, a writer, a full-time content creator, entrepreneur, a fashionista, a daughter, a sister, a queer Caribbean woman. Just I'm many things. I'm every woman, essentially.
It's always so interesting hearing such a young person say that they're retired from a profession. Talk to me a little bit about what brought you onto that journey from transitioning out of law and what did you go into?
I'm 29. I've been retired from law since I was 26. And so that how long were you practicing for you to have retired is something that comes up not that long. How I come to this journey, how I come to the point of retirement or stepping away from the profession, I wanted something else. I think the legal profession is a beautiful profession. I think there's real value. It's not that I don't look down on any lawyers. I don't regret anything I've ever done. While I was working at Legal Aid, I was doing some impact work, right? Of course, Legal Aid is helping people who can't actually access the legal system or the legal services of a private attorney. But there was something personally missing for me. I wasn't happy, honestly. It was the work was good. I have a good job. I'm secure, but I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. The environment, some parts of it were not really stimulating or challenging to me in the way that I wanted to. And I also just truly hated being in an office. It I was like, I can't. This is and I think the audience will, you know me, but I think the audience will see, like, from talking to me, how you can't, I shouldn't be in an office, right? I might need to be at a desk from time to time, but I need more. Someone had shared an opportunity for me for a consultancy role with a philanthropic fund, and that opened me up to, oh, this was something like an industry that I could even consider. It helped me to point looking into global and remote opportunities that were open to Caribbean people. But I also wanted to have flexibility in my life, and that's what I have now.
I read one of your Substack articles recently and you spoke about taking leaps. And to me, as a Caribbean person leaving behind a profession like law and deciding to do all of what you're doing is a huge leap. But I'm speaking like coming from a Caribbean family and coming from that reality where people expect you to become a doctor or a lawyer. That's the markers of success. Tell me, like, did you feel any kind of pushback to that? Did you have to find yourself justifying these decisions?
Nobody in my immediate family discouraged me, and neither did my friends. There were people, though, and even to this day, who still say, like, I can't believe you left the profession. This leaving for philanthropy or the field I work in now, this wasn't the first time I had done something unconventional. I left UE after I got my undergraduate, and I took a gap year and came home before I went straight to law school. I came home from law school in the middle of the pandemic and decided I graduated. I couldn't qualify to be a lawyer. I want to focus on my business. So they had already, I think at that point, people had already come to realize she gonna do what she wanna do. But people did make comments. There was someone who once said to me, I waste my parents' money. And that's cool. They could think that. They're entitled to that. I think one of the things this journey of taking leaps has taught me is, one, people have very limited scope of what they think is possible for their lives and for other people's lives. And so I don't really very rarely does somebody telling me like, oh, you crazy or you can't do that really bother me, because I don't actually believe in limits. Like, sometimes I just talk to myself, I be doubting myself, but overall I'm not very like, oh my god, there's a cap on what I can do and it can't work. When I was leaving law, I was anxious, even though I had found an opportunity that felt very aligned. I was leaving a very secure job. Not only was it a prestigious profession, there was a clear path I could have imagined for some level of growth. Meanwhile, I'm going into a fairly new organization, hardly anything about them on the internet, working with a team, nobody's in Antigua. It was scary. And I remember I called a few like lawyers or people I knew in the field, and I was asking for advice. And I'm telling you, the advice, I know they all were well intentioned, but the advice was not what I needed. Like, it wasn't speaking to what I needed. And a voice in my head, a voice said, you can't ask people who are not going where you're going, who have never been going, and who will never go. And nothing is wrong with their trajectory. But you literally can't ask these people because they cannot help you. You can't ask people who have never taken any leap in their own life to come and say, well, I feel to jump off a cliff. And they're going to tell you, girl, I never even climbed up in the mountain. So how you gonna, you can't ask certain things of people, and you can't really take on people's fears. I know when I tell people, oh, I want to do something, and people start to tell me all the ways it can't work. Some of it is valid, but I have come to learn, like, sometimes people are telling you that not because they don't want the best for you, it's because they want the best for you, but they can't see it, or they're scared. And I can't let your fears stop me from jumping off the cliff, because I'm a jump.
I love that. I'm wondering though, and I'm asking for people like myself who are in a space of transition right now. And sometimes it gets really scary. Sometimes you second guess. And sometimes you think it might be easier to just go back into the comfort zone. What is it that keeps you going and keeps you saying, don't quit?
I think it's more than one thing. First is gratitude. I'm really grateful for everything underneath the sun. Like, I'm grateful right now because every time I look up, I can see a green plant, right? And that just makes me happy. But also perspective. I could have the quote unquote prestigious career and I would be miserable. And for what? And for what? Whose ideas? I'm not saying when you have bills and things that might, but I actually can't. Like, I personally can't. I think gratitude has helped, being honest about what I want, and also I keep going, and I believe in like the pivot, right? The art of the pivot. I think if you're in a space of transition, it's important to name that. It's important to hold on to, like, this is not perfect. But you see, when you have a vision for yourself, if you can't shake it, I would encourage people to keep trotting on. I think you have, you know, finances are a real thing. And I'll say this because I didn't just leap with no net. And I don't always think, I'm not like telling you run off and do something and then don't have a clue. I didn't leave my lawyer job until I had a next job. And I had thought about it. I thought if I put aside X amount of money, I would leave. I didn't. And so I'm quick to be mindful. Like, I'm not telling you to uproot your life in a way that you can't make ends meet. You can't do that. But I think you can, if there's small things that you can do when you know like something is calling you, do it if you can. But I think just holding on to like my North Star and figuring out what I could do even while I was practicing and I was unhappy, I was trying to figure out where are some of the ways I could pour my energy, or some of the things that I could pour my energy to that would feed me. And when I say feed, I'm not talking about financially or literally, but feed my soul.
When you introduced yourself in the beginning, you spoke about different aspects of who you are and what you do. And for me, I look at your work in advocacy and activism and your writing, your content creation, and you manage to bring so many exciting things together. Tell me about how you bring them together in a way that feels aligned and bigger. Like it always looks like you're building towards something bigger than just this moment.
I really like that question. I think the reason why it does is because it is actually so intrinsic to who I am. So I think None of what I'm doing is putting on an ear. Like the advocacy, that's, I believe that since I know myself, this is these things that I am advocating for, I've always believed in. The and maybe some things like have expanded my consciousness as I've learned, as I got older, as I read. But like at the core, I believed in these kinds of things, right? The love of fashion. I always love fashion. Always, always, always. My grandma, my maternal grandmother, she's a fashionista. She lived in the States, and she lives in the States, but she used to work at Macy's. My granny would come back with suitcase and have us dressed down to rags. As long as I've known myself, I thought I was Caribbean. I thought I was Antiguan, but I always felt very Caribbean. Um, and so even the gift of gab and the right, all of it is me. Some of it never really feels fully like you don't see the path until you don't see how it's unfolding, right? I did not set out for the path to be like this. Like I didn't wake up and say, I'm gonna wear Caribbean designs and I'm gonna love the Caribbean and I'm gonna try. No, it was just always, these are all things that have been important to me. Um, and I lean into them, and I recognize that my advocacy is not separate from my love of clothing. My queerness is not separate from my love for the region. And I think that is how it all comes together, but it feels natural, and I think that is it. I lean into what I like, what I believe, and I just lean into my values, I think.
That's really interesting to hear because for a lot of us, sometimes you're told that, you're trying to do too many things or you're trying to be everything at the same time. But have you found that not limiting yourself, not boxing yourself in, have you found that that's expanded your horizons and your perspectives?
Absolutely. And I'm not gonna lie, it has been hard because some I don't have a linear path, right? That's not the norm. When most people around you are making very clear linear decisions, sometimes I feel, and not that we all care to an extent about what people think, right? So I care. So it don't define me, but it is something that comes up. I have had times where I'm like, I must look crazy to people. I've asked myself that, like, you just can't be happy with like this life. Like, why you always have to do more? But the alternative would kill me. I think the alternative would drive me into a state of actual depression. I can't. I'm expansive inside. And there's a lot bursting within me. My brain is going pam 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 pam, and I don't wanna hold myself back. I've done it, and I've played small. I have, and it has only made me dull and depressed.
Everything you're saying is resonating so heavily because sometimes I think that. Sometimes I say, maybe you should just be content with, you've done the academic stuff, you've done the journalism, just sit with that and like not try to stretch even higher. But then you're absolutely right. And I'm really grateful to you for affirming that for me in this moment.
Life is short, but it's also long, right? I don't know when I'm gonna croak. I don't know. I do know I'm going to though, right? And I encourage everybody who's listening, we are going to die, right? We're not sure the day, the hour. And I think also I'm very okay with the idea of death because I live so fully. When I reach the end, if the end is when I'm young or if the end is when I'm old, I want to know. You see, this life, I took everything I could have get out of it. I want when people say, you see, Zoe, boy, she had plenty she wanted to do, but she do what she could. She didn't wait. She didn't put up life for later. We are on a floating rock. What linear path are we talking about? Society and the system, I know again, real eerie theory, but society will tell you again, woo, no, but will tell you like, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, you don't. And the people who are living in the truest expression of themselves, they're not following the rules. Like about you must do this, and when you reach 30, you should have this by now. No, you know what you should do? You should like your life by 30. That's what you should do.
I'm wondering, I'm listening to you speak, and I'm wondering if there's a connection between you fully embracing your queerness and standing in it, and you being so open to live your life so expansively and not limiting yourself. Do you feel like that contributes?
I do think so. You see, Audrey Lord, big up my Lord and Savior, Madam Audrey, right? She has this quote: if I didn't define myself for myself, I would have, crushed up in other people's opinions of myself. And let me tell you, boy, that quote. Once I started to truly define myself for myself, I feel like I started to become unstoppable. And it is tied to my queerness, right? Because also Audrey Lorde's quote about queer as in other. Not about who you're sleeping with. But that that's why I identify as queer. I don't identify as bisexual, lesbian, pants. I am queer because every part of me is different, is set apart. And there's only one me. And once I came into that understanding, you can't do me nothing.
One thing I wanted to touch on is your mantra. We have to talk about your mantra. Tell me about life nice, thank you, more please. How did it originate?
Um so gratitude, as I said, has been a big part of my life. I would count gratitude as the thing that transformed my life actually. I want to start with that. Gratitude really helped me. And before I had the quote, just being paying attention to the little things, the water, the walk I went on. I was going through some. I My gratitude practice started maybe when 2026. It started while I was in UE, but I think particularly 2017, when after I moved back home, I was going through a little bit of stuff, and it was real hard. And I had always known about being grateful or whatever, but I think things became a bit more challenging um around then, and I needed something to hold on to. I needed, or else I don't know what would have happened to me essentially, right? And I started practice. I started a gratitude practice, just the little things, and it might have been trying to do some manifestation, some of that, like, oh, you got to be grateful. So that helped transform my life. But in particular, I saw this person saying life is generous, and I really liked that. And then I remember I said life nice, and I liked it. I kept saying life nice, life nice. Everything I was saying, like the sky came. I saw the sunrise this morning. Life nice, and everybody they started picking up on it. But I added the thank you and the more please because I really consider it a three-part kind of mantra, and it's very important. The three parts to me. Life nice is the acknowledgement of the moment. So right now, being on this podcast, Amani, that's a life nice moment. Thank you is to whatever you believe in. If it's God, the universe, I don't know, Beyonce, Marshall, I don't care, whatever is your deity, right? Yourself, thank you. Even to the person you're with, thank you. Amani, thank you for having me on this podcast. And then more please is to say, I want more of this. This goodness might be, I want more podcast interviews, but it might just be, I might want to have more good conversations. That three part is kind of, if I was to be woo, might be a spell, might be an incantation, something like that. An affirmation of like the goodness, because it's important to it call the life nice calls me back. The thank you is outward, and then the more please is more like that, more of this is available to me. And I decided I started sharing it online, and I invite people into it. I invite people into a gratitude practice, a life nice practice, or whatever, because I don't think it's the cure all to everything in life, but I think it makes a difference. For me, it saved me.
One thing though is that I realize it might have started out as a mantra, but it feels like it became a movement. And it's been so exciting for me to see people sharing. I'm seeing people tagging you and posting, but it feels like you're intentionally empowering people with this mantra. Tell me what that feels like for you.
Honestly, I have a folder in my phone, and I haven't updated in a while with like people screenshots of people saying it. It never gets old. Um, it really makes me a bit emotional. My eyes are becoming a little watery, actually. because as I said, gratitude changed my life, and sometimes people reach out to me and say, you've made me really be grateful for a lot more things than I was. And I'm like, boy, me, I just doing this thing. I just showing my life and showing what worked for me, the truth of my life. I also share my life. It very much not. Let me make this clear. It is not perfect. I deal with a lot of things behind the scenes, but it feels so good. Not for, and it's not about recognition, but just knowing what gratitude has done for me, and inviting people and seeing people lean into that. I'm like, yo, boy, how they just something, and it feels good to know something that comes from just my heart, something from this place of, if it came from a place of despair, essentially my gratitude, and it basically transmuted, and it also touched people. It really does feel good.
I wanted to know, in everything that you've been doing, has there been a moment where you really sat and you thought, this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing, or I'm exactly where I needed to be?
Yes and no. So there have been many moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm on the right path, but I still feel like if I'm yearning for, like, I keep reaching for other things. So it's like this is just a piece. But I think, I feel like in those moments I'm like, I'm where I need to be right now for what's gonna come. Like this is the timing, right? But if I'm being honest, I'm still always reaching for a lot more. I'm not at I know I'm not at my pinnacle. There's some big ideas, but I have felt like, yeah, okay, yeah, and you're right. You're on the right path. You're showing up. I had an interview with Smile Jamaica last month, and I was like, boy, it was a short, quick thing, but I was like, wow, well, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. Like it's crazy. The path is winding. It has plenty detours, but it is the right one. But I think I don't feel nowhere near my pinnacle. There's so much more in my mind, so much more I want to execute, I want to do. In full transparency, sometimes I'm like, you don't give yourself enough time to sit with where you are, because you're always reaching. And I'm trying to do more of that, but it is hard because as I said, there's so much in my brain that I want to make into a reality, so much I want to do, so many ideas, that sometimes I'm like, you're not there yet, but I am somewhere, and where I am is still beautiful.
I love that so much. And I think you're speaking directly to my soul because sometimes I have that problem as well. I don't sit and say, hey, you did that. Like you did this huge thing. Because I'm already thinking, what's the next big thing that I'm going to conquer? And I think sometimes we have to sit and give ourselves credit for like where we are and hold gratitude for all that's come, but also still look towards what we're trying to get to next. I wanted to ask, in everything that you're doing, we spoke earlier about the advocacy, the writing, the content creation. What would you say is that common thread or common messaging that you're trying to put out into the world?
Oh no, this is one of the hardest questions somebody ever asked me, honestly. Wow. Amani, you are truly a journalist. Papa, we got something. No, this is a question. First of all, I think I want everybody to have a good life. Um, and I'm not talking riches, nothing. I think I want us to have. I genuinely believe we all deserve goodness. There's some values that I hold very important to me, and I think maybe they come through joy, love, ease, abundance. And I'm not talking abundance, I want to be a billionaire. I'm talking abundance of joy, love, ease, compassion, safety, creativity, beauty. Actually, these are the things, these are some of the highest values, things that are dear to me. No matter what arena of life I'm in, these are things that are of importance to me. And I think they shine through everything I do.
See, you handled that beautifully. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm glad I made you reflect on that.
Yeah, man. And equity. Equity.
One final thing I want to ask you is listening to you right now in this moment, because we've been friends for a long time, but doing this interview is making me see you and appreciate you in a whole new life. And I love that. Listening to you, watching your content, watching you just live life out loud, it makes me think about things like, you mentioned joy, expansiveness, not limiting ourselves, and just gratitude. It makes me think about all of these things as everyday acts of resistance. And they're important, yes, but I feel like they carry a greater significance when you're somebody like, you're from the Caribbean, you're a woman, you're black, you're queer. Like, tell me about the importance of all of this in your life.
I really, you asked really good questions. Lucille Clifton has this poem, Won't You Celebrate With Me? She says in the poem, I had no examples, right? Born a woman, black. And I think I'm getting goosebumps because the first time I read it, I thought it's true. She's made this beautiful, she made a life, but no example. I am black, I am Caribbean, I am queer, I am a woman, I come from a single mother home. Um, I had I'm really getting emotional. In high school, I had teachers who were good, who I never forget, but I had teachers who were so mean when I was going through some things in my teenage years. And I think back because now you have a different lens and I'm an adult. And I think too how all they needed to do was offer a bit more kindness. Um, and I think how some people had high expectations of me, and some had low expectations of me for no other reason than I was black, fairly not rich, so I could say poor. I didn't come from a rich family, rich in love, but I experienced a world where there are people who tried to make me smaller. Boy, they tried, but they couldn't do it. Um, and I think for me, it is an act of resistance, right? Every day, because there are people who would love to put me in my place. There's so many things that ask you in this world to be less, to be more palatable, to be, even with me, your nails too long, your hair. A lot of Some of what I do is deliberately being resistant, right? I my hair, I love my hair short. I could grow my hair. I have grown my hair. But if I have to I'm not growing my hair because I think it's my beauty. Cause come on, look at me. I push back against that and I grow up. Grew up. My grandfather, love him dearly. He says you need to grow back your hair because his faith says that to him. He wants me to grow. He's like, you need to go back your hair, woman. Hair is a beauty. I don't subscribe to that. I have super long nails. You lawyer with long nails, or I know I don't fit a mold of like a particular kind of woman. I don't want to be a particular kind of woman. The only kind of woman I want to be is me. I could do the clean girl aesthetic. I could lean into all of that, but I would be miserable. And I also truly think one of the callings I think on my life is that my life is to be an example to people. That is a true, honest to God belief that I hold, is that I am meant to live as an example. Not in a way that I raising your children or you must follow me like some prophet. No. I mean, if you want. But as an example of you can live fully. So many people are not living lives that are true to them because they're too caught up with opinions, caught up with religion, caught up with examples that they think are the only things they have to do. And I reject it. I really do reject all of that because I think the world that we are living in, part of the problem is people's conformity. You know why we have high levels of depression? Because people want to go and write books and they're in the bank doing the telework. And not that the telework is not important, right? It's not that the lawyer work is not important, but you have to, okay, you're gonna do it. Please make sure you're leaning into the things that you want to as well, right? We need, for the social good of society and all of that, we need some of these, we need these roles. And everybody, yeah, okay, everybody can't be Beyonce best-selling artist, but everybody can lean into their creativity, right? Every So I think it is an act of resistance, because I'm showing that the mold, I actually do not need to subscribe to it. I don't need that to live a full life, and you don't either.
Thank you so much for this conversation. Let me let the dogs finish barking. Thank you so much for this conversation, Zoe. It's been inspiring, uplifting, and all the things that I associate with you, expansive in the best ways. Before we leave, I just wanted to know if you had any closing words that you want to share, any message to anybody out there listening. You've given a lot of messages so far, great ones, but
um no, I think, as you said, I've given a lot of great ones. The only thing is, I would say, actually, I have a ask. People, I have a big expansive dream, right? As I say, it's my calling to share my life. So make sure you follow me up on everything Zoe.Mercedes on Instagram and TikTok, Zoe Mercedes with a underscore on Twitter, Zoe Mercedes on Substack. Just follow me, give me the opportunities, trust me, lean into me. That's all I want, and amplify me, because I really do think I have something great to offer the world.